Hey guys, Aaron Ray here, and today I'm gonna talk more about my variant of the penetrating shot build that a lot of people asked me about. This build is mostly used for higher tier nightmare dungeons and was tuned exactly for that. It's pretty close to the classical one, yet there are some differences mostly added to make us more tanky and sustain at least some parts of the damage, which is really high in the 70 tiers and up. I'm going to showcase all of it in this video and discuss some interesting points regarding my ability choices as well. At first, let's talk about the foundation of the build, which is the skill set we are using. As a basic attack, I prefer Puncture over Forceful Arrow because Puncture is much faster and it's easier to kite with it. Puncture is using a melee weapon to attack, and since we are using a dagger here, which is a very fast weapon, it is definitely faster than Forceful Arrow, which is using the slow crossbow. We also have two passives over here, one for generating energy, which we should always have close to the maximum for our Edge Master aspect to work, and the second one to proc vulnerable. It is also much easier to proc vulnerable overall with Puncture, since it needs only one hit to proc it. And here we have our penetrating shot, which is kind of obvious, and the main passive here is advanced penetrating shot. It allows us to slow down enemies and knock down elites to safely attack them. As a movement skill, I'm using Shadow Step over Dash due to the crowd control potential that could help us against some elites, and Unstoppable feature that can save me up in a bad situation if I occasionally get crowd controlled. Overall, Dash feels much better, yet for higher tiers push, I prefer Shadow Step. Weapon Mastery is a pretty expected passive, and we need it to improve crossbow damage. I'm also taking Concussive here, since we are knocking down enemies with both Penetrating Shot and our Poison Trap skills. And we always need more crit chance. I have Dark Shroud on my panel instead of pretty popular Umbra aspect, since in the higher tiers we need to have 100% uptime, especially between packs, so it's much more convenient to have it on the bar. It's a great idea to have both of the passives here, to get a free DPS boost and a chance to not consume Dark Shrouds. Poison Trap here is a purely utility skill that should knock enemies down and apply poison to them so we can benefit from our passives. It will not be able to do any kind of significant damage, and this is fine. Passives here are pretty standard too, we max out both Exploit and Melees to boost our DPS further. In the Imbuement group, I'm maxing out the Poison and taking both passives for it to do more potential damage. Poison is very important since it can deal damage while we are running around and trying to survive. Debilitating Toxins over here are great for high tier nightmares. It can lower the enemy's damage for 15%, and this is huge. Both others are just nice little bonuses, and you can drop Alchemical here if needed. Frigid Finesse, at the other hand, is a pretty strong bonus, since we are using Penitent in this build, so enemies should be permanently chilled, and it's kind of free damage. I'm not using any ultimate since I don't have enough place on the bar, yet there is a place for experiments here, especially if you want to use Umbra aspect and drop the shrouds. Passives here are pretty important. We use Inner Weight to keep our energy high for the damage bonus from Edge Master aspect, and Trap Mastery is very nice. I would max it out, yet I don't have enough points for it, so it's just 2 out of 3. Sometimes it's a good idea to drop Alchemical Advantage and respec this 1 point back into Trap Mastery. Haste here is an amazing passive that should be used to get more movement speed that can help with repositioning and staying alive, so always keep it maxed out. And as a final passive, I'm using Precision since it works pretty good for marksman sets and can help us get that huge crit for our pen shot burst. Aspect set here is honestly pretty basic in this build since the amount of useful aspects in the game is not that high. I'm using a lot of defensive ones to keep myself alive. The most important one is Disobedience, since it can multiply armor in seconds if I attack with Puncture. The second one is Aspect of Doom, which can give a significant damage reduction for only one basic attack in 5 seconds, and it's so great. I also really like the barrier from the Aspect of Protector, since it can sometimes save me when I'm out of potion. Since I'm not using Umbra aspect, it is good idea to move Trickshot to the Amulet here for better clear. On Glyphs, I'm using the aspect of the Smithing for better crowd control and this sweet crit bonus when I need to finish enemies off. On the crossbow, the aspect of the Edgemaster, which can significantly improve DPS if I stay at full energy, which is pretty easy to do with this build. Melee weapons are Condemnation, which is still considered best in slot even after some controversy. It gives a really nice speed bonus for the puncture as well and can be considered utility pick. The second item is a sword for the effects that gives me critical strike damage and the rapid aspect to spam puncture even faster. The set of bonuses to the basic attack speed is really helpful since it can make kiting process much smoother and easier overall. On the rings, I have aspect of Corruption, which multiplies my poison damage, and the aspect of Expectant, which works in awesome synergy with the combo point system. And the last item is Penitent Glyphs, which can give me permanent source of chill, crowd control and potential freeze that will help dividing the packs. I can see some potential uses for a proper positioning with those in my previous video with High Nightmare Dungeons run. Those are definitely best in slot. Let's move to the Paragon board. And my Paragon boards are pretty unusual, since I aim to use as many boards as possible. There are some similarities with other pen-shot builds out there, mostly because we don't have enough space to properly experiment with the boards, and the best approach is often so obvious. Many builds prefer 5 fully stacked boards, yet I usually aim to 6 if we count the basic board as well. So it makes my build a little different here. I would recommend leveling all the glyphs to at least level 15, so you can plan the boards with a max radius in mind. The third basic board is classical, and the glyph here is common. Nothing to add here really, since it's a basis and almost everybody out there uses it. The second board is Cunning Stratagem with Exploit as a main glyph. This approach is classical as well, so no explanation needed, just don't forget to also take Dominant at the upper side for a nice damage boost. Lawless here is a really nice 1-point rare node as well. The next board here is Tricks of the Trade, and this is where it gets kind of interesting. The glyph here is Ranger, as expected, and it is important to max out dexterity around it. I'm using it as a hub board and exiting to the bottom, top and to the left as well. I'm taking both Brawler and Ranger rare nodes, since it should help in a different situation and provide consistent damage reduction, which is really important. Yet, since we are trying to stay at a distance, I'm taking damage nodes only for the distant enemies, since it's pretty easy to just run away and maximize the damage that way. In the upper side, there is a board with no weaknesses and its glyph is Control. I'm also taking damage to healthy enemies since it can help us with the initial burst and the crit damage to the left. Training is a pretty good node in the upper side that can help with tankiness, so it's an easy grab. Knowledge is an awesome too, even if I don't have enough intelligence to activate the bonus. In the lower part we have Exploit Weakness board and the glyph here is Frost Feeder. This part is pretty unique since I was able to fit in Frost Feeder only because I added one more board especially for it. I think it's awesome since it makes our chill stronger and gives a significant damage bonus, which is always in play since I always chill enemies around me. I'm also taking Dosage here for dexterity and the Hunter Killer for cool movement bonus and a huge damage bonus against elites. The last board is to the left and it is Eldritch Bounty. The glyph is Infusion and this is the only glyph I use that it's still not 15. We all have room to grow, it seems. Both Potent and Ready Supply are good rare nodes and the Dosage is taken only as a part of the pathing to the Intelligence. So this is mostly it. I'm sure that any of the last 3 boards can be swapped around so you can change it if you like it, yet everything else should stay the same for the build to work properly. So, this was the build I'm currently playing. Please keep in mind that this build is mostly for the Nightmare Dungeon push, so for such stuff as PvP, fast farming or Uber Lilith, we need to respect a little to be efficient. You can also see a D4 builds link in the description if you need it. I will surely create more videos with other versions of ranged rogue builds, so like and subscribe for more guides and endgame gameplay. And if you still have questions, drop by my Twitch stream and ask in chat anytime. I will be happy to help. See you next time!